listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to an emergency damn podcast. I'm Angie Machado, joined with Jake Hedberg. We had lots of people in the lodge saying it was time for an emergency pod with all the news breaking this morning. So we wanted to jump on. We have no planned agenda right now. We are going to talk about what has happened, our thoughts on that, where we maybe see this thing going, and then open up to, if there's questions, you guys feel free to jump in. We have a fair number. I understand this is work day and a lot of people can't get onto the damn podcast live. But Jake, crazy news hit last night. Pac-12 has now expanded by with a six-pack now. Adding Fresno State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Boise State. What are your gut feelings initially?
Initially, I mean,
I won't tell you what he and several other people texted me last night.
Pretty split feelings, to be honest. I'm happy the athletic department was proactive and was looking to add other teams. They could just sat there and waited, but they were still looking. But there is part of me, most of me, is a little disappointed with the result of, it is a step down. Fresno State, Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State. No disrespect to those schools, but they aren't on the same level as Oregon, Washington, USC, or even, in my opinion, the Big 12 with Arizona, Utah, and just all those programs. I was a little hopeful that Oregon State would kind of wait it out to see what happens with the ACC, because it does seem like their days are numbered, and maybe Oregon State gets scooped up by the Big 12 or a rebuilt ACC, and they still maintain that power level holding. But now it seems the more likely thing is Oregon State's waiting for the ACC to implode to then scoop up schools, potentially like Cal or Stanford or SMU or other programs that wouldn't necessarily get picked up by the ACC, by the SEC or the Big Ten.
So I had that initial feeling too. Like you said, though, being proactive, because the Pac-12 didn't have a whole lot of lead time. They had one more year to get to 8 teams or to figure out what they were going to do. I didn't like sitting around waiting for the ACC, to be honest, because in my opinion, the ACC, if you lose the marquee programs, they're really no better than a lot of the,
I was more hoping for the ACC to implode and then Big 12 comes in and scoops up some of them as well as Oregon State and Wazoo.
I think this has potential, but I want to hold off judgment till I see what a media deal looks like and who's next, because obviously, in my opinion, so media deal for Mountain West is what, like 8 to 10 million a year? It has to be significantly more than that. So, it's just like, and they have to know. I mean, these teams that are jumping have to know that their deal is going to be better than that. So, or they wouldn't put the investment and, to move. So I'm waiting to hear that. Go ahead.
My other big concern was the baseball as to what's going to happen with that. Because I would, looking at the Mountain West baseball compared to even like the WAC or the West Coast or the Big West, it's a lot weaker. And I mean, Boise State doesn't have a baseball program. Colorado State doesn't have a baseball program. Yeah. So I wonder if baseball is going to go with the independent.
I would go independent, to be honest. I mean,
I would too. I mean, Oregon State doesn't. I don't know. I mean, the schedule that they have this year is pretty good from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And it's built like there's some good programs coming to Corvallis. It should be announced here pretty shortly. But, going from even those West Coast schools, they're a step higher, in my opinion. I mean, the Mountain West is kind of a bottom of the barrel baseball.
Yeah. So I think baseball, you keep it, and there's so many things we don't know with this.
Yeah. There's still. Like that was my major question is baseball.
Baseball. I think basketball could be good.
It's gonna be fun. And another thing I was talking to a friend about this morning actually is maybe there's a chance that we can pick up Gonzaga for a basketball type deal, and then we can go through there.
and that would be a fun one too. Baseball, like I said, that's not. And this is what the sad part of kind of the affairs is football's driving the bus for everybody right now. So baseball you want to take care of, but I think independent, it gives you that leeway then to schedule. There's a lot of good baseball, like you said, on the West Coast, especially. Yeah. They're just not in the major conferences. So throw in some WAC, some West Coast, those trips to Phoenix and the trips to.
I mean, I'd personally argue, based off the stuff I've seen, that our baseball schedule this year is better than it was last year.
Oh, 1,000%. It's going to be a fun one. But let's go back to football. So we're up to 6. The Pac-12 needs to be up to 8 by what? 2026?
By September or by August 1st, 26, I believe.
26. So you need to add at least 2 more. Who do you target?
Well, I think the first thing to do is Cal, Stanford, SMU. As soon as the ACC implodes, if it does. And outside of that, it sounds like they're done with the Mountain West schools, which is a little disappointing. I feel like a UNLV obviously would have been a fun place to go, fun school to have.
But do we know, is UNLV tied to Nevada? Kind of like Cal and UCLA was?
I wouldn't be shocked.
So
I don't think Nevada brings anything.
Yeah, Nevada would bring nothing. So I'm glad that they're not just taking people to take them. Yeah,
I mean, if they want the Texas or the Southeast footprint, I think Memphis,
yeah, Tulane. What
UTSA
about I was going to say UTSA. That's one.
A program I think is on the rise is Texas State, but
yeah, they're playing ASU tonight.
Yeah, on ESPN.
Yeah, ASU is traveling to Texas State, so a team on the rise. But I'm going to jump over here. We have Ben Smith saying MB her or MH for was a fraud troll. There's no smoking gun email. Big 12 had no interest. I'm gonna say no on that because there has been a lot of behind the scenes discussions that nobody's been privy to. He does have connections. It's just like in recruiting. We can hear somebody's going to commit and things change. This is a moving piece. So Oregon State finally and Washington State decided they had to make a move. They couldn't sit around and wait for everyone else to implode. You can't hang your fortunes on someone else's demise. So, and then who's to say in 5 years this isn't all blowing up again, and who knows what happens? I mean, there's a lot to it. So, I am not in the doom and gloom category, and I know a lot of Beaver fans are. I'm just not there yet. So, like I said, let me see a media deal. I think what's happening too is Fox, ESPN, Apple, I think still in play a little bit, but they're all realizing they don't have the late night West Coast games. They need games, they need inventory. And so they lost that. And you can't really necessarily rely on ASU and Arizona to play every 7:30 kick on Saturday night.
Yeah.
What do you want to see, Jake? We've seen the Pac-12 conference send out an alert or an announcement. We've seen AD Barnes send out a letter. What's next? What do you want to see?
I do think it will all come down to the ACC imploding, to be honest. I feel like there's a reason they took 4 teams instead of 6. I feel like the Beavers right now, or the Oregon State athletic program right now, is kind of in a wait and see type moment. We'll see what ends up happening, but I do think with FSU and Clemson and even Carolina, the ACC's days are kind of numbered.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason Oregon State didn't take 6 Mountain West teams. I think they are waiting to see what happens with Cal, Stanford, even SMU.
Okay, if Cal and Stanford went back, do you make them pay a penalty? Do you make them come in at a lower rate? How do you handle that? I'm
going to be honest. Cal and Stanford bring nothing to the Pac-12 besides academics.
And who? I mean, honestly,
Stanford hasn't had a good football program in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Basketball programs are both mediocre.
Uncle Filthy just pointed out something that I noticed on Barnes's letter. In the Lodge of Beaver Village, people are kind of upset that he said that they were putting the student athletes' needs first and not the donors, which I didn't take offense to that. But what I noticed says Uncle Filthy says, I noticed Barnes' email changed his wording from compete at the highest level to compete at a high level. I picked up on that too.
I didn't see that, but I mean, it is a step down. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
like it's 4 Mountain West teams and 2 Pac-12 teams. That's not the same as 2 Pac-12 teams, 2 ACC teams, 4 Big 12, and 4 Big 10. Like that's it is a weaker conference. My whole key is kind of the playoff. How if Oregon State can get the auto bid,
yeah,
or if the winner of the Pac-12 will get an auto bid, it'll be interesting. There's going to be a lot that kind of gets sorted out over the next couple weeks. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
And that's like I said, we didn't have a ton to talk about, but we did want to jump on, get some thoughts here. Clinton Moses, how far east? USF, Tulane, Memphis, UTEP, UTSA, Texas State, SMU, North Texas.
I wouldn't go any farther than Tulane, but
yeah, I wouldn't either. I don't think you need an East Coast. You don't need an East Coast footprint. I think a Texas, the Central Time Zone would be nice. Texas, just because it is prime recruiting land. I think that would be helpful.
I do think South Florida would be a good pickup if, like, just looking at the athletic programs and the amount of money that could be thrown at that program through their donors and stuff. But it's just tough travel wise. Like if South Florida was in Texas, I'd scoop them up in a heartbeat. I think they're a great program. I think their football program is especially on the rise, as is their basketball program. So that could be a good fit. I just don't know if they're going to expand out that far east.
Well, here's Uncle Filthy has another kind of hypothesis. Could it be setting us up to be at West Coast half of what's left of the ACC and the West Coast, have an Atlantic Pacific?
I mean, that's the big question. Like, that's why I kind of think it's wait and see until the ACC blows up, because then we'll see what schools get picked up by the SEC or the Big Ten. You know, the Clemsons, FSUs, Carolina, Duke, and then like the leftovers, like those, like Boston College, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, even potentially, like the schools that are like Oregon State, you know, small college towns. I guess Boston's not a college town, but smaller funded athletic programs with a smaller TV market, and it'll be interesting. I mean, just looking at the grand scheme of things, I think for basketball, I like this move, especially if they can get Gonzaga and St. Mary's in a basketball only type deal. Football, still mixed feelings about it. Baseball, if they do roll with the Mountain West, then I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would set up though nice if it's a baseball and if you have the two coasts going, you could then get into a Wake Forest and some of those. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot to think about, a lot of moving pieces still. I don't think the answers are completely there. I do think though this is coming. Oregon State wouldn't have done this. Those schools wouldn't have jumped if there wasn't some at least preliminary numbers from the networks on the table. So, and the puppet masters are at work on this. So it is good. I think going forward, the uncertainty is gone. So they can move forward with the whole Pac-12 brand. And the other thing to think about too, Jake, I'm just thinking about with like baseball and things is the teams that move to the Big 12 and the Big 10 potentially could still do non-conference series with Oregon State.
And that's what you're going to see with some of the schedule this year. I mean, Washington already, they put out their opponents yesterday. I don't know if too many people saw this, but Oregon State and Washington.
They used an old Oregon State logo.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many people saw that, and they aren't the last of those former Pac-12 teams that Oregon State's playing this year.
It's going to be it's good. I've heard some rumblings too. Some good teams coming to Research too. Some fun teams.
I mean, I'm excited for
Research. Sorry, Goss.
For it to be announced. I've seen like what teams are coming here and where Oregon State's going, and it's going to be a fun season. I'm excited to see how the schedule like aligns, like who's coming when and stuff. But it looks pretty solid. You know, it's some Big West, some WAC, some West Coast, some Big Ten sprinkled in as well.
It'll be fun.
It'll be cool. I'm excited.
So back to the football thing. One thing that I was thinking about today, I had to run to a meeting, so I was on the road, and I was thinking about something. So one of the things that got me when when SC and UCLA announced they were leaving way back 2 years ago was the fact that USC was leaving an auto qualifier spot in the Pac-12. and then same with Washington and Oregon when they decide to leave, to go to a bigger conference where they're going to have to fight harder to make that auto bid.
And neither of those, from what we've seen the first 2 weeks of the season, UCLA is not a college football playoff contender.
No.
Washington is not a college football playoff contender. USC looks pretty dang good.
Yeah, they do.
And from Oregon, what we've seen, they're definitely talented enough to be a playoff contender. But the first 2 games, the product that they've put on that field doesn't look like a playoff team. I mean, granted, there's plenty of time for them to turn it around. But I can say pretty confidently that Washington and UCLA, they'd be better off in the Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly.
The Pac-12 schedule than, playing Ohio State, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan.
The path was just easier. I mean, the path to get to the playoffs with the expanded playoff.
I mean, you saw what happened last year. The best team in the Pac-12 played the best team in the Big 12 or the Big 10, and Michigan beat the brakes out of Washington. So
so it's going to be interesting. So if the Pac-12 can continue to get an auto bid, I think that's huge, totally huge. I don't know. I've seen
that's
the wording's
the
weird. Yeah, the wording's been weird on that. So if they're able to keep that AQ spot and the Pac-12 champion goes to the playoff, I think that's super important moving forward because it does help the path that you're not fighting against a 18-team conference. You're fighting against an 8-team or a 10-team conference. So very, very interesting. Okay. If you guys have comments still in the comments and you're watching us live, throw them out there. But it is also a super, super important week. Jake, we already did the pod to talk about Oregon. Thursday afternoon before Civil War. Anything new that you need to report to everybody?
I just think it'll be a pretty good game. The team feels pretty confident. Hopeful to get some key players back potentially. Darius Clemens and Olomatoshu, probably game time decision type guys. It's going to be a great atmosphere. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, the atmosphere should be unreal from what I'm hearing. Wear orange, be loud. I've seen some people, they're buying fun little noisemakers and things because you know what? That rule is no longer in play, the noisemaker.
And I did hear a rumor that the Beavers, the athletic department, is putting out for students, they're putting Oregon State tool belts instead of like the cowboy hat. Tool belts, supposedly.
Okay. With thunder sticks, we need thunder sticks back. Cowbells, thunder sticks. It'll be here's a comment from Clint Moses. Great show. Much love, Beaver Blitz. Hey, thanks, Clint. Thanks for listening. No, Civil War is going to be big. Like I said, we just wanted to get on here. I know we don't have a ton of answers for you guys. I just wanted to get on with Jake. And Jake, I think, is a little more doom and gloom than I am. But there's still not enough information out there quite yet to form a definitive opinion whether this is a good move or a bad move. To be quite honest, Oregon State and Washington State found themselves in a pretty shitty predicament to begin with. So it's beyond our control, beyond the Pac-12's control. I do like the new commissioner. She seems to be pretty with it. That Teresa Gould. So hopefully things will work out. Here we have somebody hearing Memphis and Boise State fans are groaning. Why?
Oh,
why would they be? Are you there?
I'm back.
Okay. Memphis and Boise State fans groaning. Oh, too bad. They just don't want to get beat by the Beavs and the Cougs every year. That's what I think. Anything else, Jake? Oh, you work at Claude's. Do you want to pump up the pregame tailgate at Claude's? You're not working Saturday morning, but.
Let me look. I got it on my phone.
I think it's at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So coming to Claude's tomorrow or Saturday morning. We open at 9 a.m. We have $7 breakfast burritos, $6 mimosas, and $9 Bloody Marys. So come in and support, get some of that Damnation Cascade Locks beer to support our student athletes. And
if you have tailgates around Reeser, look for Jake and I. We wander around before we head into the stadium. And it's going to be a fun game, fun atmosphere. As always, stick to the lodge at Beaver Blitz for any breaking news on this whole realignment and who's joining. We'll keep rumors in there. Thanks for following us on Twitter. And we will be back again, of course, next week with an actual real podcast, the real one. Hopefully we'll have a little more to talk about on that one. And we'll recap the Civil War. And then we will also be previewing Purdue. So, Jake, go have a super afternoon. I'll see you in 2 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, Beaver Nation.